Hello and welcome to Right from the Kickoff with your host Joe Wright, and joining me as always is William Bayliss. It's the first podcast of the 2022-2023 season. How are you feeling, Will?
I feel part of it. Finally, after 23 years of hurt, Forest are back in the bid time. And I can't wait to get into it, AJ.
Yeah, we're both looking forward to it. It's Premier League football starting tonight. As of recording, this is being recorded just before the Arsenal Crystal Palace game. We're going to dive right into it. We're going to go through the predictions, and we're just going to have a little bit of a conversation about each team as we go through the predictions for this weekend to start off. So obviously tonight we have Arsenal and Crystal Palace. I'm going to ask you, Will, before we get into the prediction, how do you feel like Arsenal are going to do this season, and what do you think about their transfers?
Well, I actually think Arsenal have had a really, really good summer, actually. I think they spent well. I think we can build on a bit of... I know they weren't amazing, but we can build on what we did last season with the signings of Zinchenko, Jesus, for example. They've got Odegaard as the new captain, so I think this might be a new era for Arsenal. I think signing Jesus may be a massive stroke for Arsenal, and I have them finishing fourth. It was a toss-up between Benham and Chelsea for me, but I think Arsenal just pipped it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And now I'm just going to have a little. So we've got Crystal Palace as well. To be honest, Will, and I'm obviously going to. I'm not really 100% sure how they are going to do this season. Of course, they brought in a few European players in the transfer window. I just feel like the loss of Conor Gallagher, obviously they had him on loan last season, is going to be a big one for them. You look at key players that they've got. Eze, who was suffering from an injury last season, is coming into this season fit, and obviously you've got the main man Zaha. He's getting on a bit now. I think he's touching 30, if not already 30. I just think they might have a great season again, pushing top 10, or they might fall off. What do you think, Will?
I think they'll have a good season. I think they'll build up off the momentum what Patrick Vieira instilled into it, because let's not beat around the bush. When he came in, there were question marks like, could he do it in the Premier League? Like his manager status was very much unknown, and I think he's smashed all expectations, and I think he's going to have a good season. They're going to have a good season for me. I think they'll finish top half.
Fair enough. I was offering a bit of a devil's advocate approach, but I completely I don't completely agree, but we'll see what happens there. Definitely. Okay, so what do you think about the result for tonight then? Prediction.
Having said all that, I think Arsenal will win 2-0. I think although I think Patrick Vieira against his former club, anything could happen, but 2-0 Arsenal for me.
I'm gonna go 2-1 Arsenal. I think their defence will get breached. It looks like Saliba, who's finally come back from Marseille, is going to start as well. And
you're hoping that because he's in your fancy football team.
Yeah. He's touted as one of the best defenders. He kept Wesley Fofana out of the Saint Etienne team in France. So, that's why I've kind of done a bit of research on him, and he could be the missing piece of their defence. Anyway, moving on. What's the next?
Fulham Liverpool. Two opposite ends of the spectrum for me.
Right. Okay. Because they're a championship team, I'm gonna ask you, what do you think of Fulham's prospects this season, and how do you think they're going to get on?
I think that they'll get relegated only because Fulham are such a yo-yo club. Mitrovic fires all cylinders in the Championship. As soon as he gets to Premier League, he's going to fall away again. And he wants to prove people wrong. But until he does, I think Fulham will be down there.
Classic example of the difference in class as well between the Premier League and the Championship, Mitrovic. If you wanted an example, he's the one and only example you can use all the time. Going on to Liverpool, to be honest, I think we've both got them in a title challenge. I know I've got them down as winning the league. Obviously, we're going to go through our top 4 and bottom 3 at the end of the show. But yeah, Liverpool for me are going to be pushing again. Last time they lost the title by 1 point, as they did last season, they went on and romped it. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be very, very close, very tight. And obviously, I think a lot of people have got City as their winners. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, Mane going out the door, Nunes coming in. I think Nunes, for me, in pre-season looks pretty good. He's had a couple of shocking games, a couple of brilliant games, so a bit of a mixed bag, but we'll see what Liverpool get on with. Prediction for you, Will?
4-1 Liverpool. I don't think they're going to be too much.
4-1 Liverpool. I'm going to go 3-0 Liverpool. I can't see anything but a Liverpool win for sure.
Yeah, that's fair. And moving on to the next newly promoted team is Bournemouth versus Aston Villa. Now,
Okay, I'm going to mix it up this time. Obviously, asked you about Fulham last time. What do you think about Villa's opportunities? And Gerrard, obviously, second season for him, took over from Dean Smith at this the sort of third way point through last season. How do you think he's going to get on in his first full season for Villa?
I think this is going to be the real test. Like you say, it's his first full pre-season, what he's had. And I think he'll want to hit the ground running. And I don't think there's any better game of who we want to be playing against. I know Bournemouth have signed some okay players, but I think Villa will be too much for them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we've both got Bournemouth struggling this season as well. I think going on to Bournemouth, so obviously you've said a little bit about Villa there, but Bournemouth, to be honest, they look like they're going to sign the goalkeeper from Barcelona, Neto. That's been breaking news today, which is a great signing for them. But actually,
yeah, I think it's needed. I think that's what Leicester needs.
Yeah, of course we do. I think Danny, we'll get onto that.
You're ready.
I'll stop myself. No, I think Bournemouth for me, I don't think they've done enough. To be honest, I think when you look at the newly promoted clubs. Your boys and Fulham have done more in the market for me. I think they are going to struggle. And to be honest, if I'm going to be completely honest, Bournemouth are definitely the smallest club in the Premier League this season. Personal opinion. Sorry to
I don't think it's close.
Yeah, sorry to any Bournemouth fans listening, but they've got a bit of a tin pot ground, and I just feel like they are a bit of a small club, so they are going to struggle. But we'll see what happens. Prediction for you, Will, for tomorrow.
2-1 Villa.
I'm going to go 3-1 Villa. I think Bournemouth will get off to it. I think they'll get off to a flyer, and then Villa will come in and
we need to make some differences. We've all gone the same scoreline, well, the same result so far.
Yeah, but at least
the next one is amongst the pigeons, Leeds versus Wolves.
Right, I'm going to ask you which one you want to take, Leeds or Wolves. It's up to you. I'll let you choose.
I'll take Wolves.
Okay, cool. Off you go then. What do you think? How do you think they'll compare this season under, obviously, largest second season?
Yeah, and I think Neto, obviously, a FPL favourite for this year. I think he'll be the one to watch. The only downside for Wolves is that Jimenez is injured. I know he hasn't looked the same since his injury, but to have him missing is going to be tough. They do have Gibbs White, but I'll come on to that next. But Forest had, as the point of recording, just had the third bid rejected for £35 million, which I will talk to you when we talk about Forest, Joe. But I think if I was a Wolves fan, and I know a lot of Wolves fans will want to keep him, so if they lose him to Forest and don't reinvest him, I think it'll be a real loss for Wolves, because I think he would have a big impact there.
For sure, I think you just going on to Jimenez just very quickly. I think he is their talisman, isn't he? And he, like you say, he's not really looked the same since his head injury against Arsenal a season and a half ago now. So yeah, he's not really looked the same, and obviously he's suffering with an injury again. And yeah, we'll talk about Gibbs White in a bit. But going on to Leeds, I think, quite honestly, they've made some new signings. Again, quite a few European players, but I think they are going to struggle. They've lost two big players. Obviously, Rafinha going to Barcelona. At one stage, we didn't know where he was going. Chelsea, Arsenal, Barcelona. He's ended up at Barcelona. And of course, Calvin Phillips going for only 40 million to Man City, which I think is a bit of a steal, to be honest.
Although
Having
I
said
don't
that,
really
he is
rate him,
injury
but yeah.
prone. He is injury prone. So we'll see what happens. But I feel like they are going to struggle. I haven't got them down in my bottom three, but they were up for consideration.
Roundabout there, same
Yeah.
here.
They're up for consideration. Right. What do you think for the prediction on that one?
I've gone 2-2. A Desmond.
2-2. I'm gonna go 2-1 Wolves.
2-1 Wolves. I think it could go that way. We'll see. Moving on to the big one we've all been waiting for: Newcastle versus Forest. Joe, I think we all know what I'm going to take.
Yeah. Well, actually, just give you a couple of minutes now. Just how are you feeling first and foremost? Obviously, on the eve of your team's first Premier League game in around about 23 years, if I'm correct.
Yeah, 23 years. It's a mind blow. Like, I was last 4 years old when we were last in the Premier League, so I don't really remember it that well. I remember bits of it, but not really much. So this is when we kick off next week for the first home game. When I'm going to go I think it'll feel 100% real then. But so far, I think we've spent a lot of players, but we've had to
You brought in a lot of players, and
we've had to. You know, Joe. Like, I know a lot of pundits saying, "Oh, Forest is saying recklessly." Like, we had 5 loan players all gone back to Premier clubs. A lot of our players run out of contracts, and they wanted to make sure they guaranteed football. Like Lewis Graven, for example, so he's gone elsewhere. Like,
obviously,
we've had to sign these players.
Just a quick one, because obviously we are going to talk about Forest a little bit more than everyone else. But the key difference for me, you've made tons of signings, so we're not going to touch on all of them, of course. But just quickly, what do you think about the goalkeeping change? Obviously, Samba, which was a bit of a shock that he's now no longer at the club. But then upgrading him, in my opinion, for Henderson, you must be well thrilled with that, right?
I'm one of the best English goalkeepers, and I can't complain. I think he pretty much saved Sheffield United in the first season of being relegated, and I think he could be the difference this season.
For sure. I mean, let's put it this way: you look at Ramsdale, who was obviously relegated with Sheffield United, and then you look at Henderson, who was with Sheffield United the season before that. Just apples and pears where that's concerned. And Ramsdale's now considered one of the better goalkeepers in the Prem. So I'm not saying Henderson is that level. We'll see how he does for Forest, but yeah, he's a quality goalkeeper.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Right, moving on to Newcastle. Obviously, they've made a few signings. They're looking at potential options in midfield, which we'll go on to later. But I think I think they'll have a decent season. I can't see them maybe top end of the season pushing for Europa League, maybe Europa League Conference. But I think they'll finish comfortably mid-table at worst. Personally,
yeah,
they've got Bruno Guimaraes, Chris Wood. They've got all the players there. Maximan, obviously, no threat of losing any of their talisman players, because obviously now they're loaded.
So, like, if you were a player, you would not want to leave, would you?
Yeah, of course you wouldn't. Because Newcastle are on to bigger and better things for sure. But it'd be interesting to see how Eddie how goes. Obviously, he's just signed a brand new contract as well.
Yeah.
I think if they get off to a bad start or they start playing poorly, because the expectation levels are raised, he could be in a bit of trouble. So, because again, I think they are going to be looking to get into the top 8 this season for sure.
Yeah, and I think, like we say, well, as we record this podcast, the window is not closed. They could still sign 3 more players if they want. They could sign whoever they wanted to. Really,
yeah, for sure. And I think they'll have a good season. Right, predictions. What do you reckon?
I'm gonna go. I online I said 2-1 Newcastle, but I'm gonna be slightly more positive. I'm gonna go 1-1 because I think just getting a first point on the board is so important.
It's a difficult one. because I would usually back newly promoted teams going in, but I think Newcastle at home first game, again it's that they're not going to be kind of languishing at like lower table. They're a different Newcastle than when making predictions last season. I'm also going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1 as well. I hate to follow you up. Obviously, we're trying to go for difference, but I had 1-1 in my mind, so I'm sticking.
Yeah. Well, if that's how you feel,
Yeah.
Moving on to Spurs Southampton. Now, I'm going to go straight on to Spurs, if that's all right, Joe.
Yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Spurs, I think for me, have had a cracking summer in terms of transfers. They made some great, like Perisic, for example.
Your loney star has gone there as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's no Nico Williams though, is he? Let's be real.
yeah. I mean,
but yeah, for me, this is why I think they'll just sneak in the top 4. I think they'll finish third. I know you said the same thing, Joe. So
yeah, I mean, to be honest, you can't look past the fact they've had a cracking window. They've got, in my opinion, they've got a world-class manager. I know they've had Mourinho at the helm, and they've had the likes of obviously Nuno at the helm. Again, they've had good managers, Poch and stuff, but I really feel like obviously he can take them to a new level. I really feel like it, and I don't world-class manager. I don't really feel like you can say much more, and I think that's what puts them in third position for me is that, and also the signings. I'm a big fan of Perisic as well. So
yeah, I think it'd be cracking. Moving on to Southampton, what do you think?
Southampton, I think they're going to be struggling. I think I haven't got them in the relegation zone, but I think they'll be fighting in sort of the bottom 5 spaces and could be struggling. I mean, Ralph Hasenhüttl obviously is a good manager. I think but I almost feel like, I don't know, Southampton just seem a bit stagnant for me. I don't know whether you
I
feel
agree.
that.
They haven't really signed anyone which makes you think, wow.
Yeah, of any note, have they?
No.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, we could be completely wrong, but you just get,
of course. I hope we are.
You get a feeling. I mean, everybody's going to, we're on the precipice of the Premier League. Everybody's got a clean sheet, so it doesn't really matter what we think at this point because we've not seen anyone play. These are just our opinions going in terms of what we think might happen. But yeah, I do think Southampton are going to struggle. And like you say, they've not really signed anyone of any real note that's made you go sit up and go, wow, what a signing.
Yeah. But just touching on that, if you guys who's listening have any have your own predictions, please comment them down below. We would love to hear them, and follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, and now TikTok as well. We'd love to hear your opinions on these fixtures.
Yeah, for sure. If you're following us on TikTok, you'll get to see my lovely face a lot more, and obviously will be chipping in with that as well, I hope.
You're head of TikTok.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, next
Moving on to the scores. Yeah.
Sorry, predictions.
I'm going to go 3-1 Spurs.
I'm going to go, I can't go past the Spurs win. I'm going to go 2-0 Spurs.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, let's move on to Everton Chelsea now.
Everton Chelsea. I'll let you pick Chelsea or Everton.
I'm going to go Chelsea. I think we've had quite a good summer, not as good as what they'd wanted. Every time they want to sign a player, Barcelona uses a magic money tree to magic up some more money.
Yeah, that's true.
They've just signed Cucurella, haven't they? So I think they paid over the odds for him, but I think it could be good for them.
I mean, if you don't mind me saying, well, just on that particular signing, because it has happened as of today, hasn't it? I just find that one a bit odd, personally. Obviously, they're in the market for a new centre back. Again, I will speak about that later. But I just feel like, with the full-backs they've already got at the club, just seems a bit of an odd one. He's a good full-back, and I like what he does, but I just don't think he's like in the tier that what they've paid for personally.
Yeah.
I think like you said, they've paid over the odds. What they paid about 50 million for him. And I just feel like these are the type of transfers for me that are pushing the game into a bit of ridiculousness in terms of prices. Because Cucurella, if you look at somebody like Cucurella, then what are other players going for? Do you see what I mean? It's a bit of a strange one for me, especially with him only having a season at Brighton. A very good player, and I did like him. He was a standout for Brighton, but it's just a bit of an odd one. I agree. Going on to Everton, I think they're going to struggle. They've sold Richarlison to Spurs. A great signing for Spurs again. Really bolsters their bench and kind of makes them stronger in that regard. Not really replaced him. Obviously, they're a team that's definitely looking at FFP rules to try and balance the books. Calvert-Lewin is injured, and he's injured for 6 weeks. They've currently got Rondon up top. He's suspended for the first game against Chelsea. It just screams to me unorganised, and I would be worried on the eve of the Premier League if I was an Everton fan.
Yeah, I would as well. What scoreline are you going for, Joe?
I'm going to go for a 2-0 Chelsea. I can't see past the Chelsea.
I've gone 2-1 Chelsea, so very similar. Moving on to your boys, Leicester versus Brentford. Now, the goalkeeping situation is one thing, but how are you hoping for the season, Joe?
To be honest, if you said to me you finish in 10th position as of now, I'd take that. I think that's, but I think
you'll snap my hand off.
It's a weird one because I think a lot of people, including yourself and myself to a certain extent, obviously feeling a bit like Leicester are going to struggle this season. But I have to say, we've got a very, very talented nucleus, and it just depends whether we lose them before the window. But it is coming out from the reports of the club like we don't want to sell any of our top assets. The only issue we've got, and this is what people aren't understanding, one, our manager is in the duty-free business, which has basically been shut off for 2 years during the pandemic. So we are struggling financially in that sense. We've got a lot of what you would refer to as deadwood in the club. Vestergaard, Ryan Bertrand, some bad signings, possibly the likes of Perez, who can come up with a goal or two, but isn't really a first team player. Those are the type of players we want to get out the door. But of course, top teams aren't interested in those players. And we're overpaying some players, obviously. So we are struggling. We have a wage structure, as you know. We've got to keep in the FYP rules. But it also doesn't mean, and I want to stress this to anyone listening, because obviously I follow Leicester constantly on all sites and everything. It also doesn't mean that we're struggling for money. This thing, just because we haven't signed anyone, it's because we've got to keep us, and that we're not a club that wants to be run into the ground. We're run by a very, very accomplished family who know what they're doing. So they're not going to sign anyone if it's going to cause risk to us in the future. And that's what people aren't understanding, I don't think.
One thing what would worry me is that the goalkeeping situation. Now, do you think Leicester need to buy a new goalkeeper? Because I think they do.
Personally, no. And I'll
Really?
I'll tell you why. Yeah, you say I would like a new goalkeeper. I'm not saying that it's impossible. But if you say, is it an absolute necessity? No. Reason being is because personally, I've seen a lot of Everson in pre-season. He looks a fairly handy second choice goalkeeper for me personally. Second choice, maybe first. We'll see what happens. But I've seen a lot of Danny Ward in cup games. Not the odd Premier League game, obviously. With Schmeichel having a few injuries over the years, and he's a handy goalkeeper. He's a very, very handy goalkeeper. Now, what people aren't realising as well is these boys that we're talking about haven't had a chance. Do you know what I mean? We might be talking about Danny Ward or Everson in a couple of months' time, going, "Oh, it's cracking, definitely a first choice goalkeeper." Now, that's what I'm saying. For me personally, I'm ever an optimist, and I will always give these guys a chance. And I will say this as well. I think Schmeichel last season is great servant to the club. You know, absolutely gutted he's gone. Obviously, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I am gutted. But again, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. He was at fault for a lot of the goals in terms of from corners. Didn't really command his box. But he's always struggled with that ever since he's been at Leicester.
Yeah, I've seen a few clips. You're right.
And I've had that. He's a great shot stopper, but you need someone who can command the box. And I think Ward is better at that. And what I've seen of Everson, he's better at that. Obviously, Schmeichel is a top class shot stopper, so it depends what these two can do. But also, what I've seen of Ward in the Euros for Wales, had a terrific Euros. So I know he can do a job. So if you're saying that I'm completely worried, no, I trust the club. And I don't mind giving one of those two a chance to become number one. Get that number one shirt. You know?
Yeah, you're just hoping that it did, because if they both turned out to be flops for Leicester, then you should be worried.
Yeah, I think no, but I also think what it does give us a chance to do. I have no doubt the club, with a week to go, if they go a couple of weeks into the season, if they go, look, these two boys we've got aren't good enough, we need to sign a goalkeeper. I have no doubt we would sign a goalkeeper that we think is better quality. I do believe.
I just worry that surely the club should know by now, because they've had them long enough.
Yeah, no, of course, but I also think that, you know, you've got to give these boys a go. And like I say, we'll wait and see. It's gonna be different for me, because obviously
Only time will tell. Yeah,
I'm so used to seeing Schmeichel between the sticks. He's been there for 11 years, so
yeah, it's gonna be weird. Moving on to Brentford, then. Can they follow on the good form from last season? Because yes, they've signed a few decent players, but they have lost Ericsson, so he might be a big loss for Brentford, mighty. But they just signed Vestergaard, the Danish player, hasn't he? So I think it'll be a good signing for him, won't he? What do you think, Joe?
hang on a minute, Vestergaard.
I think it's Vestergaard.
Where does he play?
Like
what position?
Centre mid.
I don't think it's Vestergaard. I might be. I think I know who you're talking about, but I don't think it's Vestergaard, because he's the centre back that plays for us, and he's definitely been sold.
I think it's just something that. While I'm searching it, Joe, you can carry on something else.
Yeah, I think obviously Thomas Frank, he's a good manager. He's had a season in the Premier League already. They had a great season last season. We both actually put them to finish kind of where they did actually last season, didn't we?
Yeah.
So, you know, I just feel like we could get another Sheffield United situation, not as poorly as Sheffield United, because I feel like they've got some decent players, but I personally think they're going to struggle, and I've actually got them in my bottom three this year. And I know you've probably got them in your estimation quite low down as well. I just think with kind of Forest coming up as well, you know, somebody else is personally. I don't think Forest will finish in the bottom three, so that means somebody that's already up there is going to have to drop down into the Championship, and I think Brentford will struggle. But we'll see what happens. Result.
I'm gone 1-0 Brentford. What do you think?
You've gone 1-0 Brentford. Well, there you go, folks. All you need to know that Will knows absolutely fuck all about football. Excuse me.
Thanks, Joe. Well, if it does finish 1-0, I just think the keeper might be a difference for me. That's my personal opinion.
I think to be honest, Will, this opinion you've got is more hope than actual opinion. But no, I'm gonna go 1-0 the other side. I think you're right. I think it could go either way. I think it will tell us a lot though about what Leicester are going to be like going forward. So I'm actually looking forward to the game and who we start as well. We've got Ricardo's out for 6 months, unfortunately. Poor bloke's just torn his Achilles. and Barnes is out for a couple of weeks. So it'd be interesting to see if Brendan starts. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm going for 1-0 for the City. Come on, you boys! Come on.
Moving on to Man U versus Brighton now. I'm going to go to Brighton because they've just lost Cucurella, and I think they might be in a bit of trouble this season. I know I really like Graham Potter, but they might be languishing a little bit. What do you think, Joe?
It's going to be the same old problem, isn't it? They've just signed I can't remember his name, but they've just signed a Uruguayan striker, a bit of an unknown quantity. And they've also got, in response to losing Cucurella, they've actually got Levi Colwell, who was on loan at Huddersfield last season from Chelsea Academy, and who's now gone on a one-season loan. I know he's not a fullback, but he's a defender. So we'll see what happens there. But I think you might be right. I still can't see past the fact that I just always think of Brighton as a team that have got really nice play, can really play some really tactically good football, but they just struggle to put it in the back of the net, and they're not really signed anyone that's maybe go, okay, that's the problem solved. I mean, this Uruguayan striker they've signed might be the difference, but I just can't see it. Just can't see it, and it does worry me a bit. We'll see what happens. I mean, they're a good side. I think what they've got in their arsenal is, I think Graham Potter is possibly one of the best English managers in the Premier League, and in the Football League in general. So we'll see what happens. I've not got them to go down, but I think you might be right. They'll struggle.
Yeah. Moving on to Manchester United, then they've only signed Martinez, really.
Yeah.
I think I might struggle a little bit as well.
Right. Well, I'm gonna ask you this, Will, because obviously we've both spoken about Brighton. First question, how do you think Ten Hag's going to get on?
I know. I think Manchester United will struggle initially, but I think he will do quite well. I think he's handled his press conferences really well. The whole Ronaldo. I think the whole change room has an issue. Look at how many the players were left early from a pre-season game, before the game had even finished. I think it's not acceptable, and I think there needs to be a real culture shift in the whole club.
For sure, and like you said, they've only signed one player. The kind of shambles with De Jong, the entire transfer window is just ridiculous.
He might go to Chelsea now as well.
Yeah, well, it's quite clear that De Jong does not want to go to Man U. I think that's the price you pay for not getting Champions League football as well, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, there's a lot going off with De Jong being owed wages at Barcelona as well. So there is that little chestnut that could be having something to do with it. Yeah, I think Man U are going to struggle this season for their standards. Obviously, I don't think they're going to be in any trouble or anything like that. I'm not that ridiculous, but I think they could be. Again, I think they'll have another poor season if they don't get some signings through the door.
Yeah, I agree. So, scoreline.
I'm gonna go 1-1.
I've got 1-1 as well. I agree. I think it'd be interesting to see the first game of the season from Manchester United. And finally, last game, West Ham versus Man City. Now, I think Man City, obviously, they've signed Haaland. Could he be the difference? Is he going to take more in the light? We don't know. Judging by the Community Shield match, it's still up for debate. But I think it might take him a little while to get used to, but he obviously has the strength because he held off Van Dijk from one chance. Yeah, I think he will. It might just take him a few games.
I mean, let's be honest with City. They had 2 pre-season games before that. They
didn't have many, did they?
It was poor. They were rusty, and I think Man City are they're going to be up there again. They could easily be like a lot of people's favourites for the title. I kind of hope they don't win the title just because we are turning into a one-team league a bit if that's the case. But yeah, I think Haaland is going to have a great season. Personally, I think everybody took the Community Shield a little bit too literally. I think last week it's like, it's one game that doesn't really mean much. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not no disrespect to the Community Shield, but even when Leicester won it last year, I said that, oh, great start to the season, nice little warm up for the season. You know, I wasn't like super buzzed about it. You know, it's a good game, it's a good warm up game, but yeah, there's nothing much into that.
It won't mean anything. Like,
yeah,
you know, and moving on to West Ham, I don't think West Ham are going to be anywhere near the kind of team they were last season.
It's a difficult one. I think actually a lot of people have got them challenging for Europe again this year. I personally think they might struggle.
Yeah, I think
in terms of the standards.
Mid-table. Yeah, I think I'd be mid-table personally.
Yeah. I don't think they're anywhere near relegation or anything like that. But I don't think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be as on it as they were. They're not. For me, they've not really done enough transfer activity. Again, there's a few teams like that this year, including my own, obviously with no transfer activity. But yeah,
hopefully you don't just stay a bit stagnant. So scoreline, what do you think? I'm going to go 3-1 Man City.
I'm going to go 1-0 West Ham.
Oh!
Yeah,
that'll set the cats amongst the
and there's a reason for that, Will. I think if you remember rightly last season, Man City lost the first game to Tottenham. I think they always tend to, over the last couple of seasons, they always tend to have a bit of a rusty start. And I think West Ham, I've seen a bit of them in pre-season. I think they're just a little bit more on it than Man City. So I think West Ham were going to shock Man City and win it 1-0.
Oh, that'd be interesting indeed. Right, those are our predictions and what we think for each team. Now let's move into our top 4 and bottom 3 before we wrap up, Joe.
Yep. So do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first, Joe. So first, your top 4.
So yeah, I've gone for we'll go 4 upwards. So I've gone for Chelsea in 4th, Tottenham in 3rd, Man City 2nd. It's going to be very, very tight title race again, and I think Liverpool will win it in 1st. Just because
Oh, that's interesting.
I like to see Liverpool do well.
My top 4 is 4th Arsenal. I just think the signings might just be the difference. Spurs in 3rd, like similar to you, and then Liverpool, and then Man City. I think Haaland might be the difference for Man City this season. Your bottom 3, Joe?
My bottom 3 are Bournemouth in 20th, Fulham in 19th, and I've gone for Brentford in 18th.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I've gone very similar. So I've gone Bournemouth, bottom, Fulham, 19th, and Southampton. Just because I think it's a bit stagnant. I think the rest of the pack will catch up with them. We'll get relegated in 18th place. Now, our predictions are very similar, but let us know your predictions for the season. We'd like to hear your thoughts on anything we've said today. We'd love to hear it, wouldn't we, Joe?
Yeah, we would. Just one brief. We've got one more little bit coming up, which we'll try and make as quick as possible. Joe asks Will tells. I've got 2 questions for you, Will. Fire questions if you want, or you can go into a bit more detail. Right. Dark horse of the season and flop of the season teams.
Oh, that's a tasty one. Dark horse, I have to say my boys, don't I? Forest, I think they'll be the team. I think they'll be the team. I'm being positive. They'll be the team. Flop of the season. You can tell from my bottom 3. I'm going to go Southampton.
Yeah. That makes sense.
You, Joe?
I'm going to go dark horse. It's not really a dark horse considering how much money they've got now. But Newcastle, I think they'll do really well this season. Potential European place. Obviously, they've got a lot of money and they can make signings in January as well as up to the end of this window. So Newcastle and flop of the season. Obviously, bottom 3. I don't really know whether to put them as a flop, to be honest, because I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Now I'm going to go flop of the season. I'm going to go Everton again.
Everton. I think they'll be down there as well.
Yeah,
I think they'll struggle.
Everton again. In terms of where the fans want them to be and where they think the standard should be set, I think they'll be down fighting again. So yeah, Everton for me.
Yeah, I can see your point there. Just before we go, I just thought I'm going to set you a bit of homework, whether you can put it on your TikTok or share for next season. I want to know your top 3 new EPL shirts and your bottom 3. So you're going to do a bit of homework, and you guys at home can let me know your thoughts on that as well. Let us know your favourite shirts and your least favourite new shirts for the new Premier League season. We'd love to hear it, wouldn't we, Joe?
Yeah, we would. And also, just a shout out to one of our friends who categorised it. Bear in mind, he is a Forest fan, but he categorised, it's got to be said, because it made me obviously cry with laughter earlier. Loved the away shirt. But Liam Kit, if you're listening, don't know whether you will be, but if you're listening, he categorised the Forest away shirt as a bus seat, and now I can't unsee it. It's a great shirt, but once you hear that analogy, you can't unsee it, can you?
Well, they do say that bus seats are there, so it hides them all amok. So hopefully, Forest won't have too much crap behind it. So hopefully, it won't be a bad omen for that. You like that one?
Right, that's the first podcast of the season done and dusted. Let us know your thoughts, guys, and obviously you can get in contact with us over Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Obviously, we're going to be on TikTok this year. And we are also on YouTube. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. How are you feeling? First one out of the way, Will. Let's get cracking on with the season.
Let's have it. Come on, Forest.
Come on, City.
Manchester City.
Yeah, Manchester City.